Give me the 7th century manuscript of the Quran that talks about Muhammad's visitation in the cave from Gabriel.
I'm gonna look into it right now.
It doesn't exist.
There is no 1st century manuscript of the Quran.
Well, it doesn't matter, because during that time the Prophet raised an army, all of which were filled with scribes, all of which were filled with narrators, all of which were filled with memorization and notation.
You see, Logic. Now, it don't matter with him.
Soon after,
hold on, Scott. I'm speaking, please. So it don't matter with Scott because he's a Muslim.
Hi, welcome to Religious Insight. Today's episode, a Muslim man says blind faith is better than the truth, as Godlogic destroyed him in this debate. Let's watch more for fascinating details.
And remind me again, what does that have to do with the resurrection of Jesus?
Assalamu alaikum to all Muslims and to the Christian brothers. Hello, may God bless you. Let us say the Our Father, for I am not a Christian, but let us say it.
We're not going to do that, Scott. Do you have any evidences that you can offer us?
What?
Do you have any evidence? Do you have any evidence you can offer us against the crucifixion?
By the way, Godlogic, I had no idea that this lady in the chat was your fiance or wife. I said something inappropriate.
Okay, Scott. Do you have any evidences against the crucifixion?
One moment, I want to apologize to Godlogic for something. I had no idea that that was your wife, so my apologies.
It's okay.
We have no idea what you're referring to. So, can you give us evidences against the crucifixion?
That's not how. What? Evidence against the crucifixion?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. Where are the witness records?
Evidence against it. Can you offer evidence against it?
That is evidence against it. Where are the witness records?
Josephus, Tacitus, the four Gospels.
Oh my God! He's referencing Josephus and Tacitus, Christian interpolations. My God, Godlogic, really? These are the guys you have up here? Come on.
So Scott,
come on.
Scott, you're a joke.
So Scott, if you're going to claim that they are Christian interpolations, prove it.
Why don't you do a Google search? It's widely agreed by Christian scholars that they are interpolations.
Then go to Shake Google and show me.
Okay. We can go into Christus. We can go into the interpolations. It's widely agreed by major biblical scholars.
I want
Godlogic.
proof.
Seriously, these are the guys. These are the guys. Godlogic, you have up here. Godlogic, please.
Scott, you know you want Avery's attention. Just try to deal with the topic. Maybe
No, I respect him more than you.
We know that you want his attention.
You're not educated enough on this topic.
Then show us that you're educated and give us proof of your claims.
You just quoted two people who are agreed by
I stated their names. I didn't even quote them yet.
Prove it.
I stated their names and didn't even quote them yet. If you're going to say that I can't quote them, tell us why. Give us proof.
It is agreed by major biblical scholars in modern day.
Show me.
Oh my God. Oh my God!
Which part?
You might call on your false god, but your false god isn't going to help you until he gives you evidence.
It's literally on the introduction of the Wikipedia page. So why don't you do? So why don't you Google
Wikipedia, bro? So show me. Hold on, Scott. No, you Google it. If it's the front page on the Wikipedia, if it's the front on the Wikipedia page, then here, humor me. Show me the Wikipedia page.
Yeah, you could Google Josephus Christian interpolation.
I don't need Surat trust me, bro. I want you to prove it.
The reason I don't want to discuss this is because it's literally an agreed opinion among biblical scholars, and your ignorance is not my problem. Your ignorance is not my problem.
I'm ignorant. So here, how about this? You shut up. I'll give you the sources. Because I won't have to go to Shea Google. I'll go to an enemy of the faith. Bart Ehrman.
Yeah.
Bart Ehrman actually tells us that the Testimonium Flavianum is true.
a part of it
For
is
example,
true.
let's look at what he says. Let's look at what he says. In Bart Ehrman's book, Did Jesus Exist? Page 60, he
Oh my
finds an
God.
early Arabic manuscript, which is translated in John Mayer's book, The Marginal Jew, which shows us an authentic rendition of the Testimonium Flavianum. And here is what Josephus actually said. At this time, there was a wise man who was called Jesus, and his conduct was good, and he was known to be virtuous. And many people from among the Jews and other nations came to be his disciples. Pilate condemned him to be crucified and to be unalived. And those who had become his disciples did not abandon their loyalty to him. They reported that he had appeared to them 3 days after his crucifixion and that he was alive. Accordingly, they believed that he was the Messiah, concerning whom the prophets have recounted wonders. So, are you going to argue against
This is literally
Bart Ehrman
this is literally the same account.
Scott,
This is literally the same account. This is literally the same account. This is literally the same. You literally quoted the same account, whether it's Arabic or not.
I did not quote the Greek rendition of the Testimonium Flavianum, because the Testimonium Flavianum begins, "There once was a man, or should we dare even to call him a man?" It literally calls Jesus the Messiah. And it doesn't say anything about the disciples believing that Jesus rose from the dead. So to say that I quoted the exact Testimonium Flavianum and not the Arabic text, which is rendered by Bart Ehrman's book in his book, Did Jesus Exist?, is completely laughable and shows that you have no idea what you're talking about.
So just because some words are not exactly the same, it is nearly 90% the same.
You said I quoted it verbatim.
Yes, I was saying that it is practically the same account.
So you're lying again.
No, you're playing word games. You're playing word games.
I'm holding you to your own words.
What I clearly said was that it was practically the same account, which does not mean it is exactly the same account. So are you going to be an honest
You didn't
debater?
say practically the same account.
Are you going to be an honest debater? Are you going to be an honest debater? Or are you going to do your little game, your little TikTok debate game?
Me actually giving the evidence in front of us and quoting my sources is being dishonest and playing the TikTok game?
Let's look up the supposed Arabic manuscript.
That's what I did.
That is 90% the same as the interpolation Greek manuscript. And let's look into that and see, is this a trustworthy account?
Yes, this is what I quoted. In John Mayer's book, A Marginal Jew. Would you like to look up the book?
I'm looking it up right now in the background.
Yeah, go ahead. Look up John Mayer's book, A Marginal Jew. And go to pages 59 through 69.
So you are using this as evidence he was crucified and resurrected, right?
Yes, that Jesus was crucified. Not particularly that he was resurrected, but the particular issue that we're having first and foremost is the crucifixion, which is what we asked you about.
Okay. Great. So this work is, it seems to be, predating the interpolations. So we can work from that. This work is from which century? The 10th century. When I camped up, I asked you, do you have any witness records? Your witness record is an Arabic.
Do you know the before you continue?
I'm familiar with Josephus.
Before you continue, let me ask you this question: what are the records? How early, or from what century, do we have the earliest manuscripts of Josephus's testimony? All of his testimony of his history of the Jews. What century do we find the earliest manuscript?
Do you mean the actual earliest physical manuscripts?
Yes.
Bro, they come several centuries after Christ, at Josephus' lifetime.
The 10th century, the same century that we find the earliest rendition of the Testimonium Flavianum. So if you're going to say that these are too late, then you don't know anything about Jewish history to begin with. You don't know anything about first and second century. We don't know anything about if you don't know anything
Judaism, because it comes from Josephus.
I asked you very clearly, and by the way, Josephus mentions Jesus in passing. Very peculiar, and everyone knows this is very peculiar because he was such a meticulous person. I asked you for witness accounts of the crucifixion. Do you know what a witness account is? Do you know what a witness to a robbery is?
So you're referring to eyewitness. You're referring to eyewitness accounts. If you're referring to eyewitness accounts, we can go to the four Gospels.
The four Gospels.
We can go to Bart Ehrman's quote about the four Gospels being used as independent historical sources. For example, he says in his book, Did Jesus Exist? Page 74, once it is conceded that the Gospels can and should be treated as historical sources, no different from other historical sources infused with their own authors' biases, it starts to become clear why historians have almost universally agreed that whatever else one might say about him, Jesus of Nazareth lived in first century Palestine and was crucified by the prefect of Judea. Within the first century, we have four independent accounts of Jesus' life and death. So they are historical eyewitness accounts.
Your argument, this is why you are so insincere. Your argument is to quote Bart Ehrman himself in his own books. Now, let's extrapolate the four Gospels. We know that they are based on one another. So,
no, they're
please.
Not. So if you're going to make the claim,
Godlogic. Is your friend here sincere? Is he sincere?
So are you going to prove the claim that the Gospels are relying on each other?
Godlogic, is he being sincere? Is he being sincere right now? Because you know what he just said is false, right?
So quoting just the scholars is being dishonest right now?
Yes, because you have to rely on...
Quoting the scholars is dishonest, ladies and gentlemen.
Because what you quoted
instead of don't trust me, bro, and
don't appeal to the audience. Don't appeal to the audience. What you just quoted in Bart Ehrman, okay, was just complete generic nonsense. The quote you just quoted.
So Bart Ehrman
are you going to let me finish? Are you going to let me finish? Or are you going to interrupt because you are a woman? So
I'm a woman now.
Listen.
So anyone who interrupts you is now a woman. Isn't that kind of sexist?
I am a sexist. So listen.
Dang. I mean,
your argument, your argument was basically
fitting like your prophet.
Your argument, whose prophet? You don't even know what religion I am. Your argument was to literally quote a generic passage in Bart Ehrman, which literally appealed to no real references. It was literally just a passage where Bart says, we can accept that these four gospel accounts are independent sources and eyewitness accounts. That's literally what the quote was that you said. Okay?
So they're eyewitness accounts, right?
Now, literally, that is not an argument. You realize that, right?
So they're eyewitness accounts,
you are
right?
Listen. You don't even see what you've done.
They're eyewitness accounts, right?
You are quoting Bart Ehrman making that claim. You're appealing to authority.
Eyewitness accounts, even admitted by the enemies of Christianity,
according to Bart Ehrman. Do you not see the mistaken logic you're making? You're appealing to authority.
I'm referring to the enemies of Christianity.
You are so insincere.
Stop yelling. I'm referring to the enemies of Christianity, even conceding the point that the Gospels are independent eyewitness accounts. And even from a secular perspective, they are referring to the unanimous testimony of scholarship. So, I'm actually quoting. I'm actually quoting scholars. I'm quoting.
No. Refer to the scholarship that he is referring to.
I'm speaking. So, I've actually provided scholarship. I've provided sources. What is the evidence that you have to argue against the points that I've made, that Jesus was crucified? What's your source that testifies that Jesus was not crucified?
Yeah, very simply, the account from Josephus comes 1,000 years later. Okay? That's the earliest manuscript recording of this supposed crucifixion. The crucifixion was
so the four Gospels aren't earlier?
The crucifixion was fabricated and compiled in the 2nd century. And of course, a 10th century recording manuscript. What?
What's your source that the crucifixion was compiled? So again,
what's your first century papyrus? Where's your first century papyrus?
I already told you the 4 Gospels. So we already have 4 of them.
You have no first century papyrus. You have no first century papyrus.
Stop yelling, dude. Breathe. So, what is your proof that the crucifixion was invented in the 2nd century? What is your 1st or 2nd century source to back that claim up?
Where is the 1st century source?
I will ask the question again.
If there is no 1st century,
probably the last time, Scott. So, what is your source to prove your claim that the crucifixion was invented in the 2nd century? What's your proof?
The fact that there's no 1st century account of it.
So
there is not a single eyewitness account in the 1st century of the crucifixion.
So what is your proof that it was made up in the 2nd century?
I have a question. If we're just going to go with this type of thinking. What is your 7th century source manuscript about Muhammad's visitation in the cave?
What?
The visitation
of the cave? Yeah, listen, we both know it. Listen, we choose to believe what we believe, and you choose to believe what you believe. It's all magical thinking anyway. Listen, let's just be honest. Let's be real. Let's be real.
Stop. What is your eyewitness source?
What? There is no eyewitness except the prophet.
So if you're saying that you're acknowledging that you don't have any type of 7th century document or eyewitness testimony to Muhammad's visitation of the cave, yet you still believe it and believe it's still valid.
He is the eyewitness.
So, where does Muhammad talk about this? And I need a source from Muhammad himself that dates back to the 7th century from himself, talking about how he got a visitation from Gabriel.
Angel Gabriel. And I want him to specifically say that it's Gabriel.
I'll have to check the hadith on that. I'm not going to lie here and claim that I have it to memory. But I have to memory certain sources from his wives, etc. Accounting.
You said you would have to go to the hadith. Is that correct?
Yeah. I'd have to check. I don't have to have.
What is the earliest manuscript of any hadith that you have?
Of the hadith?
Yeah.
Earliest. Oh, wait. Do you mean physical copy, first manuscript work?
Yes.
It comes about a century to 2 centuries after.
Not 1 century, 2 centuries, 200 years later. Yeah. So that's your earliest. So you don't even have something that's in the time of Muhammad, from Muhammad, about his own experience in the cave. Yet you still believe it. You still believe it's valid. But
that's false. That's false.
Let me land it. You're trying to force a criteria on us, on the Christian, by saying that we need 1st century, in the time of Jesus, papyri, physical manuscript, in order to have an eyewitness account of the crucifixion or what was going on.
Okay, I understand your point. Crazy. No, it's not hypocrisy.
And notice, he hasn't given us a source at all.
I'm going to respond to Avery. It's not hypocrisy. we have the first century Quran, okay?
You have the first century what?
The Quran.
Where in the Quran does it say that the angel Gabriel came to Muhammad in the cave of Hira?
It talks about the message entering his heart.
It doesn't say Muhammad's heart.
Oh, come on. Don't play games.
Give me the first century, give me the 7th century Quran
don't play games.
manuscript that says that the revelation came to Muhammad's heart. And specifically, give me the first century manuscript of the Quran. The 7th century, guys, is what he means by first century, the first century of Muhammad, of Islam. Give me the 7th century manuscript of the Quran that talks about Muhammad's visitation in the cave from Gabriel.
I'm going to look into it right now.
It doesn't exist.
There is no first century manuscript of the Quran.
Well, it doesn't matter, because during that time the Prophet raised an army, all of which were filled with scribes, all of which were filled with orators, all of which were filled with memorization and notation.
You see, Logic. It don't matter with him.
Soon after,
hold on, Scott. I'm speaking, please. So it don't matter with Scott, because he's a Muslim. Mm-hmm. And apparently Muhammad had hundreds of thousands of scribes, an army of scribes, just putting it all down, writing it all down. Mm-hmm. But even with that army of scribes, we ain't even got a single first century manuscript. But apparently that doesn't matter. But for us, which is affirmed when we actually have sources, which are affirmed by people who are not Muslim, that are first century eyewitness accounts. Apparently, even when we do have those, apparently we don't, and even when we don't, it matters for us in the crucifixion.
I have it here. The Sanaa manuscript.
The Sanaa manuscript isn't from the first century.
No. The Sanaa manuscript is very early. I think it is 7th century or 8th century, one of those. It's very early. It's very early. However, the Sanaa manuscript has erasure on it. People was going in, editing it. You can literally see the erasure on the manuscripts, and it's different. It says different things than what your Quran says today.
Oh, the beauty of science! Because we are able to validate and clarify. We're able to validate and clarify the erasure. Correct.
Really? Where do you do that? What?
You just said it yourself.
No, it shows evidence that things are marked, that things are erased, and something is written on top of it.
It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter.
Hold on, Scott.
We were talking about the descent of the Quran.
Bro, you can't keep cutting him off, dude. Let him talk, please. It's getting annoying. Yes, you keep interrupting Black Doctor when he's speaking, dude. Let him finish.
It's 2 against 1. Give me a break.
You don't want to talk. You don't want to talk to me, but you still keep talking over me, dude. That's the problem.
Apologies.
So again, you can't look and see what's erased. You can only look and see what's on top of it. So the claim that we can know what's erased is completely false. You don't know how this works.
That's irrelevant. The topic that Avery brought up. You're not letting me finish the point. You're not letting me finish the point. You're not letting me finish the point, Avery.
Go ahead, finish.
The point Avery raised was about the matter of the descent of the Quran and anything about the Prophet's revelation. The Sanaa manuscript does contain verses related to the Quran descent. Okay?
No,
yes, it does.
Okay, show me the verse in the Sanaa manuscript that says Gabriel came to Muhammad in the cave of Hira.
Now, I'm going to check whether it references specifically the angel Gabriel. Okay? I don't know if it does reference that particularly, but I do know that it references the bringing down of the Quran.
Bro, you don't even have in your Quran today a reference of the cave of Hira and Muhammad in the cave. That's not in the Quran at all.
He's grasping at straws, Logic, but let him.
No, I'm not grasping at straws. He brought up a particular topic, which was the descent of the Quran. Okay? Now,
I specifically said Gabriel's visitation of Muhammad in the cave of Hira. That's what I said.
Fair enough. I'm not aware if the Sinai manuscript does contain the specific reference of the angel.
Doesn't.
Okay.
It doesn't. Not even your Quran today. Your Quran today does not contain that reference. That comes from the Hadith. That come 200 years after the fact.
And the Quran references the descent, okay? It may not reference the particular method. That is why we utilize the Hadith and the Quran in combination with one another. So
you mean to tell me that it is okay for you as a Muslim to not have any early documentation on Muhammad's visitation in the cave, no eyewitness testimony, but you still believe it and you count it as valid, but it's not good for the Christian to have 2nd century manuscripts relating back to the 1st century events of what happened, written by Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, copies of these references, combined with the church fathers who followed the apostles, who has apostolic succession, bishops and church bishops succession, all of this history and oral transmission combined with the text and manuscripts that we have, that's not okay, but it's okay for you to have 200 years after the fact, combined with oral tradition and,
yes, but
really
you are leaving. But you're leaving a particular thing out.
Do you see the inconsistency?
If you are looking at things superficially, you can see the inconsistency. But you are leaving a particular thing out, which is that your Bible. Your Gospels are the Hadith. We have the Quran and the Hadith.
Imagine if our manuscripts of the Gospel came 200 years later. Imagine what you would be saying to us.
Literally,
your Gospels do come 200 years later.
No, they don't.
No, they don't.
They come around. They come around.
They're written in the 1st century, and the copies that we have are not even 100 years later. The copies that we have are within 100 years. Yours are not even within 100 years. It's 200 plus years later.
Your Gospels are equivalent to our Hadith, correct?
No, it's better than your Hadith. Better than your Quran.
In terms of understanding that they are accounts of sayings, etc. Yes?
But if you're talking about its historical genre, sure. Are you saying the Quran is not historical genre?
Yes.
Okay, then the Gospels are historical genre.
Okay, where is your Quran?
Mike, it's been corrupted.
No. Where is your Quran? This additional resource. Where is your Quran? The additional resource, the word from God.
It's been corrupted.
This is why we're the original.
Do not play games. You're playing games now.
I'm not.
Where is the accompanying book from God that matches up to your gospel?
Dude, it's been corrupted. The point. The original Quran that accompanied the Bible, that Muhammad brought in Arabia, has been corrupted. We don't have any access to it anymore. That's the point.
Godlogic, I don't understand what the hell you are saying here.
Really?
I'm asking you about the Christian equivalent of the Quran. Where is the point I'm outlining here is that the inconsistencies you brought up are valid to bring up. However, what we have is an additional resource, which is the Quran, which it's the source text, and then you have the Hadith, which are the sayings accompanying it. You only have the sayings accompanying nothing.
No, that's not true at all.
Your Gospels accompany what?
We have the source text.
What's the source text?
If you want to talk about the sayings accompanying it, then that would be our church fathers and the apostolic succession. That would be the Hadith equivalent, while the Bible is the source document.
No.
Yes.
Your church fathers would be equivalent to the tafsir in Islam.
No.
Okay.
No.
They would be yes.
Because they're quoting the apostles and they're quoting Jesus, saying Jesus said this, apostle said this, apostle said that, apostle knew this person and knew that person. right? That's just like the Hadith.
Yeah. They're quoting Jesus from the Gospels.
The New
They're quoting Jesus from the
New
Gospels.
Testament is the gospel of Jesus, bro. So
the New Testament is the gospel of Jesus.
Yes.
Fantastic. That's why they had to copy each other.
Well, this is my thing.
Right. That's why they had to copy. That's why they had to copy each other, right? Because when you're coming up
with accusation, you're talking over me right now. You could throw all type of accusation and stuff, but that doesn't deal with the inconsistency.
No, but you're running away now. You're running away.
So stop trying to be inconsistent. The only reason why I even came up here was because I saw you applying an inconsistent criteria to Black Doctor that you yourself don't even hold to. So be fair in this conversation.
Okay, I agree that on the face of it, on a high level, you can look at what I'm saying and say it is inconsistent. However, I would say to that, we have multiple resources, one which we believe is wholly complete, which accompanies the Hadith, which I believe equivalent to your Gospels, and I don't believe you have this single source of truth which accompanies your Gospels, okay?
So what?
We can agree to disagree, okay? We can agree to disagree on this matter. At the end of the day,
what's the evidence against it? That's the question. So you can say that. What is your evidence against the testimony that are in the gospel that we have? What's your evidence?
Which one in particular? The crucifixion?
Yeah, the crucifixion and the resurrection. Any of this
This is what we've been on about for like an hour, bro.
Okay. And listen, do you know why it's actually kind of hard to argue against the crucifixion? Okay,
it's because you have literally no evidence.
One second. It's like, hear me out here. I'm not attacking Christianity. I have a lot of actually love for you guys.
And
it's like let's say there's a Shakespearean play and there are 3 acts in the play, and someone comes along and says this second act never happened. It doesn't make sense because without the second act there is no third act. And that's kind of the way I look at Christianity. All right, it's reality mixed in with a theater play. Okay, and it doesn't make sense if someone comes along to you. I can totally understand why. If I said to you the crucifixion never happened, it's like me saying Act 2 of this play never happened. It doesn't make any sense because then Act 3 can't happen, the resurrection. So to you, it's logically impossible. Okay, it's logically impossible. It doesn't add up. Okay, so we can waffle back and forth with each other all day, but if it doesn't matter how hard I try to convince you the crucifixion never happened, because in doing so, it interrupts the resurrection and everything else about Christianity.
Well, if you disprove the crucifixion, then by default there is no resurrection, and then Christianity.
It's impossible. It's impossible to outright using Christian logic or regular debate logic to disprove the crucifixion. The fact of the matter is, it's a matter of faith and belief.
It's not a matter of faith and belief.
It's a matter of faith and belief. I choose to accept Islam into my heart, and I choose to believe it didn't happen.
Okay, I got you. So this is what you said so far. So, and what you said is there are no logical, historical objections that you can bring against the crucifixion and resurrection. It comes down to a blind faith, what you choose to believe and put your faith in, and you choose to believe and put your faith in the claim that it didn't happen because you're a Muslim and you follow the Quran. So, thank you for saying that. I agree with you that that's what you have to rely on because you can't logically, empirically, evidently go against the crucifixion and resurrection of Jesus. You can't do it.
Yeah, but can you clarify and be honest that that's not because,
Can I clarify what?
Can you clarify? That's not a failure. That's not because that's a failure on my part.
It is.
Can you concede that you believe in it as a matter of faith too? If you can concede that, we can have an honest conversation.
Let me tell you, because how we see faith is differently. Because there's a difference between a blind faith, which is you believe in something without evidence or really logic, and you just choose to believe this particular thing. And then there's faith with substance, which is what the Bible says. The Bible says faith is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen. That's the type of faith that I have. I am choosing to trust the evidence and the substance that has been provided to me. So I'm saying there's evidence and substance behind Jesus being crucified and resurrected, and I'm choosing to believe the evidence. You have blind faith. So that's where we're different.
Oh my God! Come on! You choose to believe that the Gospels are perfect in their original Greek, etc.
Because there's evidence to that.
No. Someone who's an atheist can come along and present to you, according to atheistic criteria and scientific rationalist criteria, objectively reasonable evidence that certain elements are corrupted or interpolations, etc. You choose on blind faith to deny that. So I don't listen. I respect you, but I don't appreciate that let me finish. Can I just finish?
Yeah.
I don't appreciate that you're contextualizing it as you have evidence-based faith and I have blind faith. The objective truth is that you and I both have blind faith. You and I both have blind faith. That is the objective truth.
What is your evidence of that?
And I say that with all sincerity. If you can't be sincere with me,
what is your evidence that I have blind faith?
Because you choose to believe the gospel is holy, when I just explained to you that scientific rationalist.
What is your evidence that I'm believing in it blindly?
Because there are many reasonable atheist rationalist arguments as to why certain pieces of the Gospels are actually later interpolations.
Yeah, but what is your evidence that I'm not using perfectly reasonable, rational, logical reasons to believe the evidence that back up the Bible?
Because their evidence outweighs your evidence.
Like what?
Listen, we can go into this, and I'm not. I'll give you one example. It's agreed today. Listen, I'm not trying to run away. It's just because it would take too long. It's agreed today, for example, that the story of the adulteress is an interpolation later. Okay. The story of the adulteress.
Agreed upon by who?
The story of the adulteress in John is a later Christian interpolation. Yes or no?
No. But
okay, so you see, we can't have an honest discussion.
Scott, watch this. Let me even give you that. So we're talking about atheistic, non-believer arguments, right? Bart Ehrman, who acknowledges the textual variants, including that, even thinking that it's a later interpolation, he says it has no effect on the biblical theology and theme of the Bible.
Okay, now Bart Ehrman, a guy you previously quoted, and now you're quoting. One second, and now you're quoting again. He says that that particular story is an interpolation. Yes.
He's an atheist that says that the variants that are in the scriptures, including that one, has no effect on the message and theme of the Bible.
Yes, it has no effect, but he says it's an interpolation, yes?
It's of no consequence.
But does he concede it's an interpolation, yes or no?
He believes that it's a later addition.
Okay, so you have referenced him before to back him up, so now if you're referencing him again, that means you agree with him that's an interpolation, yes or no?
No, Scott, you're going over your head.
Yes, I understand the point you made, but do you agree it's an interpolation?
What's the point that I made? Scott, what's the point that I made?
The point was that it has no bearing on biblical theology.
No, that's not even my point. That's why I'm saying it's going over your head. Your entire argument right now is that the atheist argument is full of substance and is more more evident than my position. I have blind faith while the atheists bring in rational arguments. So you brought up how atheists don't cut me off, man. So you brought up how atheists can show us that the Bible is not reliable. And so what I've done is I've quoted an atheist, a New Testament a critic who's an atheist, who even says that even what you brought up has no effect on biblical authenticity.
So originally you claimed that you believe based on faith with evidence. And then I believe
I feel like you're not addressing what I just said.
No, I understand what you said, but I'm gonna light it up again because I feel like you have masqueraded things a little bit.
What's the point of what I just said, Scott?
You've manipulated things.
No, what's the point of what I just said, Scott?
Tell me the point of what you just said.
I just gave it to you.
He just told you.
Yes, the point you made was that even an atheist who uses, according to me, better arguments relating to the evidence has said it has no relation to the biblical theology. Okay? Now, can I say something now? That is not what we were talking about. We were talking about belief in the Gospels as a whole. Okay? So you choose to believe in something which that person who you quote and reference agrees is an interpolation. You choose to believe it anyway. Yes or no? It doesn't matter about the whole overarching biblical theology. You choose to believe certain passages despite evidence going against
the overarching biblical theology is intact, that it's the exact same. Like when you interview Bart Ehrman,
you're mixing two concepts.
When you cause him to be honest, he when you ask him, what do you think the New Testament actually says? He says, well, exactly what it says now. He literally says that we are just tinkering with the text and referring to textual criticism. It says exactly what it's supposed to say.
You're making two different arguments and mixing them together. On the one hand, you're making the argument that you're using factual evidence that happened, and then on the other hand, you're making the argument that it has no bearing on the overall biblical theology. We were originally talking about argument one, which was factual evidence. Now you're changing the argument.
Evidence against the crucifixion of Jesus.
Yeah, now you're changing the argument from real factual evidence of things that happened to being now a debate about the overarching biblical theology.
No, you were the one who brought this up. Stop. How? I mean, man, we're human beings. How does someone like you miss what you just said? You're the one who brought this up. You said that that atheists are using better arguments with substance and evidence and facts, while we as Christians are not believing stuff based on facts, like the crucifixion, for example. I asked you to give me an example of this. You said, they agree that, the Bible has interpolations like the adulterous woman. Well, I gave you an atheist that says that has no effect on the facts and authenticity of the Bible. You brought this up and I just proved you wrong.
Yeah, but it does pertain to the authenticity of that story, yes? So now,
no, it doesn't.
So now you made the claim that you believe... By the way,
Bart Ehrman is not my source because there's other scholars that argue for the adulterous woman. So I only brought Bart Ehrman to give you an example of, even if an atheist says this, he's still saying that the Bible is still an authentic historical source.
So you deny completely that you have blind faith whatsoever?
Whatsoever.
And we just
deny you have blind faith whatsoever.
And guess what?
You deny
you have
whatsoever.
Blind faith. You have blind faith that I have blind faith. That's what I was showing you. The fact that you're saying that I have blind faith is coming from a position of blind faith. You have no evidence that I have blind faith.
Hey, Logic.
You just gave evidence yourself.
There is one word to describe what Scott is doing to you right now, and that word is called projection. Because he has blind faith, he can't live with himself.
I said it myself. It's not projection if I admit it.
I know. You just said it. But since you can't live with yourself because you have that, you're going to have to make yourself feel better.
That's false.
Saying that Avery does too.
That's false. It's actually better to live this way than to live in a way where you're always questioning the evidence and blah, 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 blah.
So it's better. Okay. So you said that it's better to live that way. You said that it's better to live that way other than question the evidence presented. What kind of sense does that make?
Yes. Morality. Yes, because
even question everything except for Islam is what I'm saying.
So it is better to listen. It is better
to live in blind faith.
So hold on a second.
It's better to live in blind faith than evidence presented. Wow.
Yes, because hang on a second. Would you tell anyone of the Jews who accepted the 10 Commandments? Who is better, a Jew who believes blindly in the Ten Commandments and follows them, or a Jew who questions them every day?
You question the Ten
Who is
Commandments.
objectively better? Who is objectively better? Who is objectively better? Answer the question.
We're trying to answer the question, Scott. You won't stop repeating it.
It's all right. It's all right, guys. Hey, Scott, thanks for coming up. I'm going to let the next guest come up, man.
That's fine, Godlogic. May God bless you. Listen, I want you to answer. But can you answer before I go? Which Jew is objectively better and more moral? The Jew who believes blindly in the Ten Commandments, or the Jew who questions them every day?
Jews don't have to believe blindly in the Ten Commandments.
Who is more objectively moral?
Here, I don't think that has anything to do with their morality. So
yeah, the question doesn't even make any sense. They don't even have to believe blindly in the Ten Commandments. They have them to read. What are you talking about?
But even then, guys, someone who looks at the Ten Commandments and looks at where they come from and traces their source back to Moses and to the God Yahweh, who does as the Bereans do, who study the scriptures to see whether these things are true, they are commended in Scripture. So the Bible tells us who is more reliable. The blind faith, someone who just says, hey, let's go worship other gods, or the person who tests the prophets like God commanded them to?
Yeah, I think we just got another new quote today, Logic. It's better to believe blindly than to test evidence presented. Wow.
I love that. Wow. Somebody quote that. Somebody put that on a t-shirt.
Muslim Logic.
Right, welcome back, guys. This was a very fascinating and eye-opening to so many things about Islam, and I believe you enjoyed watching this video. Let us know your views in the comment section. Don't forget to subscribe and share this video with your friends. Don't forget to like it as well. So many Muslims live by either assumption or by what they heard someone or what their imam said, not because they have any physical evidence to back up their claims. He who alleged must prove. If you're laying a blind accusation about a thing, you have to have your proof to back it up, else whatever you're saying is nothing but lie or a fallacy. And this is a typical of Muslim debates. If you call 100 of them for a debate, I can guarantee you that 99% of them will behave the same way this man behaved in this debate. The only way to beat a Muslim in a debate is to use their logic against them. Just turn it around and watch them fall like a pack of cards. He's asking for an eyewitness account, and yet he doesn't have evidence to back up his own claims. He has been making a lot of allegations and a lot of claims, but yet he doesn't have any evidence. There's no manuscript to back up his claim. For the Quran to say Jesus was not crucified, but Allah made it appear so to the Jews that he was crucified, that is, someone else was using his place. This has pinned Allah into the corner of being a deceiver. The question is, didn't Allah know that the disciple of Jesus will carry this message around as instructed by Jesus? Why will he then deceive them by replacing Jesus with someone else and not tell them that it wasn't Jesus that was crucified, and he allowed them to carry this message all around, spreading it to people that it was Jesus? So it shows that Allah deceived the disciple to deceive the people, which in turns make Allah a deceiver. He is asking for a witness account when Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John bear this witness of his crucifixion and also of his resurrection. And he is appealing to Bat Ehrman's argument that came thousands of years later after Jesus and also after Muhammad. It was sounding like Tovia Singer of Islam, because from all indication it is only Tovia Singer that argues like this. They don't argue with facts, they argue with their minds and what they perceive to be the truth and not the actual truth. Fact is that truth don't actually matters with this guy. A truthful Muslim is already an ex-Muslim. Once a Muslim becomes truthful, it is a sign he has either left Islam on his heart or he has already left Islam. Guys, let's know your views about this video in the comment section, and in case you have not subscribed, please subscribe, hit the notification button, and also don't forget to share our videos with your friends and your family. Thank you for watching. See you in our next video.